Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and we're looking today at the NHL and the attendance so far of the NHL season here. There's been a lot going on around the world outside of hockey, and it seems to be affecting the attendance of certain places. So we're going to be going over that in today's video. So we're going to be going over the teams that are doing really well, the teams that have seen a dip, the teams that have a little bit more of a legit concern, and then you also have the teams, okay, you know they're going to be at the bottom, and then there's a couple teams you have to look at here. So we're going to go over the attendance of the bottom. So just so you have an idea of where the bottom is, and then as we work our way up. So at the bottom of the barrel here is the Ottawa Senators with over 11,000 capacity. That's 59%. Yikes, that's not great. But again, Canadian City, they still have restrictions on how many seats can be filled. That is still a concern for all of Canada. Winnipeg, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton. It's all over. But it's like really bad, like 59% bad. Buffalo has the worst, despite that decent start to the year. 7.9 is the number. So 7,000 fans, almost 8,000, but 7,000 fans, 41.5% capacity. Not even half. A big gap between the Senators and the Sabres at the bottom. Now, we have to go over the California teams as well because they're also along the same lines as the Canadian cities where they have very strict, it's very restricted with who can go right now. In San Jose, they have the lowest number. Again, this is by success, so it does make sense to some extent. San Jose just eclipsing over 12,000 fans a night. That's 69.6% capacity. That's not terrible, but again, you want that. It's close to 100% as possible. The LA Kings, a little over 13,000. That's almost 73%. It's 72.9%, closer to 73% than 72%. And the Anaheim Ducks, just over 73.2% capacity with over 12,000 fans. So again, it depends on the size of the building as well. Because you look at the Ducks, technically their number is 0.3% better capacity in terms of overall the capacity of filling the building, but they have less fans. So that is the number you have to look at as well. The Crypto.com arena, or whatever it's called, the Staples Center, is a bigger venue than the Honda Center in Anaheim. Now, this is a pretty interesting thing in Chicago. Chicago has for years been one of those cities that has sellouts every single season. Their sellout kind of campaign or streak has come to an end this year. 18,000 fans, 92% capacity. We have not seen numbers like that since the beginning of this team's dynasty era. And that is a little bit concerning. Now, looking at, again, these are American cities, but teams that are usually at the bottom, that we always talk about potential relocation. You have the Arizona Coyotes, over 13,000 fans. That's still 76% capacity. That's not great, but better than Buffalo and Ottawa, which those fan bases make fun of these teams. They have better numbers than you. The Florida Panthers, 13,000. That is 76.4% capacity. So this is the thing that I just mentioned. Technically, the Coyotes have more fans than the Florida Panthers, but they have a smaller venue. And you're kind of seeing that here with the Devils, who have technically just slightly more fans than the Coyotes per night, over 13,000, but they have 79% capacity. And then the Blue Jackets, who are doing really well this year, they're at 15,500 with 85.7% capacity. So some really decent numbers compared to the Buffaloes of the world, the Ottawas of the world, and really even the California teams. That's actually not bad for the lower guys normally that we make fun of. And maybe those fan bases that make fun of them, maybe you shouldn't make fun of them, because especially in Buffalo and Ottawa, you guys are in a way dire situation right now. the attendance figures for the expected teams to drop, which is basically we expected it either because of restrictions in that area or the team just not doing as well. Well, Nashville, 99.6% capacity. They aren't the team they were from really 2014 to 2018, so that was to be expected. Toronto, though, not at 100% capacity. We do not see them give out ticket packages. They have done that at points to start this year. They're a little under 100%, 99%. Colorado, 98% capacity. Vancouver is interesting because, again, they are very restricted there in Vancouver. Guys, I love my Canucks fans. You guys are in a situation I would never want to live in Vancouver. I've never been there before, never had any contact, but from what I see from different things, I could never live there. I'm not their type of person. Let's just put it that way. 98% for the Canucks. We'll stop it there. Dallas, but again, they are less restrictive in their, capacity and stuff. So they are at 97%. And this is a team that people, again, is there a market in Dallas? I would say there is. 97% is not too bad. The St. Louis Blues, 96%. That's not terrible either. And then we get to the teams here before we get to the interesting group. The no problem teams that they are so good. That's Tampa Bay at the bottom of that at 100% capacity. Washington, the Capitals, over 100% capacity. The Boston Bruins, over 100% capacity. Over 100% capacity. The Seattle Kraken, despite their lack of success, over 100% capacity in the first season for the Seattle Kraken. Very nice stuff there. And at the top of the heap, by 4% more than Seattle, at 104% capacity, is the Vegas Golden Knights with 18,000 fans. Really impressive. Now, here's the funny thing. You look at the top two teams, Vegas and Seattle. Vegas has 18,000 fans. Technically, in terms of the number of fans in attendance, Washington and Tampa have more fans in the building per night than Vegas. It's just the building. T-Mobile Arena is smaller than Capital One Arena and what is Tampa's arena now? Amalie Arena? Is it still that? I can't keep track. The Florida teams always change the name of their arena. The Tampa Bay Times Forum, whatever it's called. That's probably a throwback, but whatever. So you have those top ones that are at or over 100% capacity. Now, here's the teams where things get a little bit more interesting. Now, again, I also want to give credit to the Athletics, Sean Shapiro with these stats. Figured I'd throw that in there because these are some really interesting things to look at. And this is where things get really interesting. So we're going to kind of dissect this. So we're going to go over the four Canadian teams that are struggling, and then we'll go over the 4 American teams that are struggling. So there's 8 teams listed here. You have Edmonton and Calgary. Edmonton's a little over 84% capacity. That's not terrible, but again, that's a brand new building there in Rogers Place. You probably want to see that number a little bit higher, especially with the team's success. But again, this is Canada, Alberta. They make it very tough. Same thing for Calgary. They're under 78%, or they're at 78% capacity. So a big gap between Edmonton and Calgary, who have actually both been pretty good to start their campaigns this year. They're still really struggling in that category. You have the Winnipeg Jets, who again, they have a very small building, 2,000 less fans per night than Edmonton and Calgary, but Winnipeg is at 92% capacity. And then the Montreal Canadiens are technically the quote-unquote highest number in that regard in terms of Canadian teams. They're at 92% capacity with over 19,500 fans average per night. And again, that's the Bell Center we're talking about. So not see them at 100% is a little bit concerning. And the same thing kind of for Edmonton and Calgary. But again, I know they have their situations in Canada, and that's part of the problem here. Now, here's the teams that really don't have an excuse. They're 5 American teams, and you have the Detroit Red Wings at under 85% capacity. That's very strange. The Flyers, a very rabid, hardcore fan base, they're at 88%. But again, they haven't been that great of a team this year, but still. The Minnesota Wild, the state of hockey, 92.5% capacity. So there is some concern for those teams. Pittsburgh as well. Mario Lemieux and their private investor just sold a partial stake, 93.2% capacity. That's lower than usual in Pittsburgh, which again, normally 100% capacity. And now we get to the one that is probably, again, maybe, the New York Rangers. And I think this has something to do with, again, I don't want to get political on this video, but politics gets involved in here at some point. And I think that's part of the problem. 15,260 fans on average per night at Madison Square Garden. That's not terrible, but when you look at 84.8% capacity, that is not okay for the New York Rangers. And it's not like I have a pretty good pulse for the fan base where people are at with the Rangers. This isn't a fan base that's like, oh, here we go, we're going to suck again. Now, they've been good to start the year. You look at my power rankings, you look at any power rankings, they're always in that top 10 conversation right now. They're a good team in the NHL standings. There's no reason they should be under at least 90%. You're at 85%, not okay. And when you start seeing teams like the Leafs with a little bit of concern, with the Rangers, the Montreal Canadiens, these are your top markets in the NHL, and they're struggling with attendance. Now, here's different things that we could get into. The PR of the NHL has really struggled recently in terms of the Chicago Blackhawks situation. That did not age well with the public. I know that quite well. You could tell that the public is not too happy with the commissioner of the NHL and the surrounding staff with everything that happened there. Obviously, this whole thing with COVID has definitely put a hamper on the maybe limiting people from getting into the game because either they're not vaccinated or they didn't have time to get the check or whatever it is. Or it could be the recent inflation in the United States. And inflation in the United States also has an effect on the Canadian dollar, which is negative for the Canadian teams. And that's why we don't see Canadian teams come in the NHL normally, because when the NHL has when the United States has a recession or inflation, it always has an effect on the Canadian teams first. It's one of the main reasons the Winnipeg Jets left, because they weren't making enough money in an NHL environment where there were so many American teams that could, for the same dollar make quote unquote more money. So that was the kind of stuff where that becomes a concern. And I know that Quebec City was just recently talking to Gary Bettman about bringing a team up there. How can you even consider that right now? Who is going to buy an NHL team right now? When you look at the exorbitant price it was for Seattle, with inflation, is going to be incredibly expensive. And you look at the Kraken right now, they're toward the bottom of the NHL standings. Do you want to pay for a team that's going to be at the bottom of the standings? That is something that is going to be brought up. And especially in the Canadian market, there's a rabid fan base there in Quebec and other places in Canada, but the value of a dollar continues to get less and less and less. And these not filling the arena situations is partially because of, again, maybe people not being comfortable with COVID, maybe not being comfortable with the vaccine, different variations of things that they're not comfortable with, or just, to be honest, people don't necessarily have the money to go and spend $100 on an NHL ticket right now per person. That's a family of 4. That's $400 plus the $15 hot dog and the sodas and everything else, all the intangibles. It all comes to get, $25 parking. Everything comes together and becomes super expensive. And it's gotten to the point where people are just not going out as much because it just doesn't make feasible sense. And that's kind of what's happening right now in the NHL. And it's not just the NHL. It's happening all across sports. But the NHL these numbers are slightly concerning at the very least. Now, things could change, again, as we get into the later part of the season. I know people watch a lot of football at this time of the year. Baseball just wrapped up a couple months ago, so we're going to start seeing that fan base come back. But that's the kind of stuff where you're just a little bit concerned because it's too early in the year for people to give up on teams. There is some questions about what is the direction of capacity moving forward. Because there could be a point where, we saw it last year with, blocking off an entire section of seats to put an advertisement there because they couldn't sell that block of seats. Well, we'll just put an ad there, and that's guaranteed money that we know we're going to get that night. That could end up coming back in the very near future. And we talk about not liking helmet ads and stuff. Jersey ads are on the way, and some of them have already kind of started to embrace that idea. This is part of the reason why, because they're not able to fill the arena, so they need to get money from somewhere else. Unfortunately, that's going to come at a price of maybe the integrity of the game, integrity of the tradition of a jersey, and the stadium environment. It's all going to come to fruition. So there's going to be rough days ahead for the NHL. And I'm not being, just saying this to be, negative and this and that. There's going to be good days in the NHL. There's going to be a Stanley Cup champion very, very likely in 2022. The way they went through COVID and were able to get, the first sports team in America to get going again from COVID, and the way they did it, it was very enticing. But again, that was 2 years ago now, since that CBA agreement, since everything that's happened, and the environment has continued to change. The goalposts continue to change, and I just wonder what the NHL is going to do moving forward. Maybe this is what the NHL needs in terms of a tipping point with the Brad Aldrich thing, with some of the situations with Bob Murray and other management around the league, and the capacity. Is this finally the time where the NHL considers getting a new commissioner? That's something that may be brought up into conversation at some point. So, guys, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. What do you think of these numbers for the NHL attendance? Now, there is only one team off the board here. That is the one caveat, and that's the New York Islanders. I'm interested to see how that goes this season because they just finished. They literally just opened up the building this weekend, so we're going to get some of their numbers probably the next time that these numbers come out in a couple of months from now. But as of right now, they will probably be in a similar situation despite just opening an arena because the tickets are just too damn expensive. Guys, let me know what you think. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you again next time.